Welcome, everyone, to another thrilling episode of our podcast. Today, we're diving deep into the dark psychology of flirting. So, are you ready to explore the cognitive curves and manipulative tactics that can lurk behind what might seem like playful banter?
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here. Flirting is usually seen as fun and lighthearted, but it sounds like there's a whole other side to it. Can you give us a quick overview of what we'll be discussing today?
Definitely. We're going to explore how flirting can be used as a tool for power and control. We'll look at tactics like gaslighting, weaponizing charm, feigning vulnerability, and exploiting social proof. Each of these techniques can be used to manipulate and influence others, often for personal gain. Let's start with the idea of flirting as a power play. Buss and Shackelford, 1997, have shown that flirting can be a way to manipulate social hierarchies and gain influence. For example, someone might flirt with a superior to get a promotion or with a partner to make them feel jealous. What do you think about this?
Hmm, that's really interesting. So, it's not just about attraction, but about controlling the dynamics of a relationship or work environment. Can you give us a real world example of how this might play out?
Sure. Imagine a workplace where an employee starts flirting with their boss to get special projects or promotions. They might use charm and attention to make the boss feel special and valued, which can lead to preferential treatment. On the other hand, in a romantic relationship, someone might flirt with others to make their partner feel insecure and more dependent on them. It's a calculated strategy to maintain power and control.
Wow, that's quite manipulative. How can someone recognize when they're being played this way? Are there any red flags to look out for?
Absolutely. One red flag is inconsistency. If someone is overly charming and attentive one moment and distant the next, it could be a sign of manipulation. Another red flag is if the person uses flattery to get what they want, but doesn't show genuine interest in you as a person. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Now let's move on to gaslighting through flirting. This can be particularly insidious. For example, someone might flirt with you and then deny it when you confront them, making you question your own perception of reality. Sweet 2019 has shown how mixed signals can destabilize emotions and perceptions. What do you think about this?
Ah, that sounds really frustrating. It's like they're playing with your mind. How can someone protect themselves from this kind of manipulation?
It's crucial to maintain your sense of self and not let others define your reality. Keep a journal of interactions to help you see patterns. Also, it's helpful to talk to trusted friends or family members who can provide an outside perspective. They can help you validate your feelings and experiences. Another tactic is to stay grounded and not get too emotionally invested too quickly. Let's talk about the weaponization of charm next. Charm is a powerful tool, but when used manipulatively, it can be very effective. For instance, love bombing involves showering someone with excessive attention and affection early in a relationship to create emotional dependency. Once the target is hooked, the manipulator withdraws the attention, leaving the person vulnerable.
That sounds intense. It's like a roller coaster of emotions. How can someone recognize if they're being love bombed?
It's often characterized by an overwhelming amount of attention, gifts, and declarations of love early on. The manipulator will make you feel like you're the most important person in their life, but it's all an act. They do this to create a strong emotional bond quickly. If you notice this pattern, it's important to step back and evaluate the relationship. Look for consistency in words and actions. If the person's behavior changes dramatically, it could be a sign of manipulation. Now let's discuss feigned vulnerability. Griskevicius et al., 2007, found that perceived vulnerability increases attraction by triggering caregiving instincts. For example, someone might share fabricated or exaggerated struggles to create an emotional bond.
That's really manipulative. How can you tell if someone is genuinely vulnerable or just pretending?
It's a good question. One way to tell is to look for consistency in their stories and behaviors. If their stories change or if they seem to exaggerate their struggles, it could be a red flag. Also, genuine vulnerability is usually shared in a balanced way, not constantly or in a way that makes you feel responsible for their emotional well-being. Trust your intuition. If something doesn't feel right, it's okay to create some distance and reassess the relationship. Next, let's talk about exploiting social proof. Cialdini, 2001, found that people follow others' actions, especially if they perceive them as popular. In flirting, this might involve flirting with multiple people in the same circle to appear highly desirable or leveraging social media to create an illusion of demand.
That's a clever tactic. It's like creating a competition to make someone feel like they have to win your attention. How can someone avoid falling for this?
It's important to be aware of the FOMO, fear of missing out effect. If you notice someone is trying to create a sense of competition or scarcity, it's a red flag. Don't feel pressured to win their attention. Instead, focus on what you want and what makes you happy. If you're interested in someone, see if they reciprocate your feelings in a genuine way. Moving on, let's discuss emotional anchoring. This involves associating oneself with strong emotions. For example, manipulators might create dramatic or emotionally intense situations to anchor themselves in the target's memory.
That sounds manipulative. How can someone recognize if they're being emotionally anchored?
If you find yourself constantly thinking about someone because of intense emotional experiences, it could be a sign of emotional anchoring. It's important to reflect on your feelings and see if they are healthy and balanced. If you feel emotionally unstable, or if the person alternates between warmth and coldness, it could be a tactic to keep you invested. Trust your instincts and seek support if needed. Now, let's talk about humor as a weapon. While humor is often a positive flirting tool, it can also be used for manipulation. Undermining confidence through teasing or jokes can subtly lower the target's self esteem, and sarcasm can establish dominance and create uncertainty.
That's a bit dark. How can someone recognize if they're being manipulated through humor?
It's important to notice if the humor is consistently at your expense or if it makes you feel belittled. Healthy humor should be fun and mutual. If you feel like the jokes are one sided or if they make you feel bad about yourself, it's a red flag. It's also helpful to communicate your boundaries and let the person know how their humor makes you feel. Finally, let's discuss cultural and gender considerations. Research by Grammer et al., 2000, highlights that men often use direct, overt strategies that may come across as intimidating, while women tend to use subtle and indirect cues that can be misinterpreted as genuine interest. In some cultures, flirting is normalized as a strategic tool, blurring the lines between playful banter and manipulation.
That adds another layer of complexity. How can someone navigate these cultural and gender differences?
It's important to be aware of cultural norms and gender roles. If you're in a different cultural context, it's helpful to educate yourself and ask questions to understand the norms. Communication is key. If something feels off, it's okay to ask for clarification or to set boundaries. Trust your instincts and be open to learning and adapting. Now let's wrap up with how to protect yourself from dark psychological flirting. Trust your instincts, set clear boundaries, look for consistency, and maintain your independence. Genuine connections are built on empathy and honesty, not manipulation.
That's a great wrap up. Thank you so much for sharing all these insights. It's really important to be aware of these tactics so we can form healthy and authentic relationships. We hope our listeners found this episode as enlightening as we did. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with your friends. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe from the dark side of flirting.